when did you start your life at Next then, Lionel?
My life at Next started on the 15th of May, 1995.
It's the exact date. Then.
That was the exact date. I don't know why I remember that date, but for some reason it's firmly sort of stuck in my mind always. So so quite a time now.
What was the reason for coming to Next in the first place? Where did you come from previously? What made the...
my previous life, I worked for 10 years for McDonald's.
Yeah.
And I was working in what nowadays we would call the L&D department, the Learning and Development department. But in McDonald's, of course, they called it Hamburger University.
Of course they did. Of course they did.
So I'd been working there for a while and then was doing a couple of other things. And then there was an opportunity here in the retail L&D department. Which was called the Retail Training Department at the time. So I came across to do that. And the reason I came up here was it was just a great opportunity to get on board with a company that looked like it was going somewhere. Didn't realise at the time quite how far it was going, but
And it's gone somewhere as well, hasn't it?
Wow, and some, absolutely. I mean, the company that I joined then, pretty much everything about it has changed massively over the years. Fundamentally, we still do the same things, but we do it in different ways with different channels, with different people. And, obviously we've moved on and expanded into the whole area of not just Next. It's not just Next core brand anymore. And it's new companies, different organisations. The whole thing has just changed beyond anything that anyone could have anticipated back in 1995, I would say.
But that's good, isn't it? I mean, I think that's one of the that's kind of one of the things that attracts people to Next as well. That it is so the scale of it and the pace of it and everything as well.
I think, and we'll probably come on and talk about this. I think I'm not sure if it's one of the things that attracts people to Next.
Okay.
Because I think, so we'll talk about that. People have got a fixed idea about what Next is, and it doesn't always align with the experience of people within Next. I think what it does do is it keeps people in Next.
Yeah.
Because we have an amazing record of, once we do get people here, we keep them for extraordinary amounts of time. And obviously, from what I've just said, I'm coming up for 30 years now. And still in certain company, I consider myself the new boy, which just seems incredible, because normally if you've got that sort of length of time in a company, you'd be part of the furniture, and you never quite feel like that here, because there's so many people who've literally spent their whole lives working at Next, and that is incredibly powerful. But coming back to the point you were making, I think that is a big part of keeping people within Next, because what you're doing today will be different in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 1 year's time, 5 years' time, because the company's changing and your job changes with it, and that keeps people motivated, it keeps them moving forward, and keeps them excited about what we're doing.
I totally agree. It's that constant freshness, isn't it, that people are just able to get maybe at a startup or anything else that people might enjoy. You get that here, or you could go into other areas. There's so many areas of Next as well.
That's a really good point. Yeah, you can find your path through Next. Sometimes you have to be a little bit patient for the doors to open up, but they will open up at some point, and they're there for you to go through if you want to do so.
And have you always been? Did you start? So you started in retail, and then did you stay in retail for quite a long time then?
The vast majority of my time here at Next is retail, 25 years, working alongside the retail team. So to start with L&D, and after 5 years, I moved over to the sort of pure HR role. Yeah. So 20 years just in retail, and then more recently, more of a group role, looking after HR across the whole company.
And was that transition? Was that quite a big transition from going from retail to then start looking at the whole of Next?
Was it a bigger transition than I thought it would be? Probably yes. There's a lot of variation within the Next business. the things that drive the different parts of the business, the things that are really important, are different within each division. And it's right that we have those differences, because what makes you brilliant in the warehouse environment is different to what makes you brilliant in the store environment, in the online customer service environment, or here in the head office environment. They are very different things, and they need to have different drivers. So getting to grips with that and understanding that was a big change for me, because I only really worked in retail. Well, I had only worked in retail. So I knew that inside and out. I knew what the drivers were. I knew the people. I knew how we did things. I knew what worked, what didn't work. I'm still getting to grips with that with the rest of the business. The people who work with me would definitely say that's the case.
But I guess because it's so big, though, isn't it, as well? And I think that's, again, going back to your point there, a lot of people don't realise probably the scale. They probably think Next retail and that's it, but there's so much more.
Certainly in the external world, the non-Next world. We know, we've discussed this, haven't we? With
lots.
The market research on people outside of Next, particularly if they're prospective people who want to have working here at Next, just have a view which, not surprisingly, is defined by their store experience of Next, because that's where most people come into contact with Next as an organisation. It's going into the physical stores, and even the people who shop with us online, vast majority of those, either to collect their orders or to return their orders, will engage with the physical representation of Next that's on the high street and in the retail parks. So it's inevitable, isn't it, that the building you see with Next across the top of it is the thing that defines what you think Next is all about. But we know it's so much more than that.
A lot more. So do you think, I guess that's it, do you think then it's really important that the brand of Next is shown in a certain way to help attract people in, especially within retail as well?
I think we have to be really careful about presenting that brand, and particularly the employer brand.
Yeah.
Because authenticity is the most important thing.
I agree with that.
There is we mustn't create something that's not true, that's not authentic, that's not real. Because we are saying to people, this is what Next is all about. It's vibrant, it's exciting, it's ever-changing. If that's what you want from the workplace, come here and we can give you that. And we've got to make sure that is what we are, and we deliver that. But there's no point putting those signals out, representing the brand in a particular way, that when people join us, they're disappointed, or they're seeing something different to what they thought they were going to see. So authenticity is the absolute key. I'd say it's not so much about, we have an incredibly strong employer brand, but it's a real one. It's been created from the people that work here and the way they work and the way they operate over many, many years. The strength comes in how we represent that to people and how we communicate that to people. Yeah. Not turning it into something that we want it to be. Yeah. Because that's a path to failure, I think.
I guess because then all you're going to do is get a certain kind of person coming in and then coming into the business and going, oh, this isn't
what they told me.
This isn't what I signed up for. Yeah.
It's like buying a jacket from Next, and you order that online, and it says, I'm not sure what colour that is, a sort of dark rust burnt orange.
The product people will be shouting at us now.
I've got that completely wrong. But if you open the packet and it's blue, you're disappointed
straight away.
Yeah, so it's got to be a genuine projection of what we're all about. And we know it works. And coming back to my earlier point about how long people stay at Next, how Next draws people in and provides an experience for them that they want to get more and more of, for the vast majority of people. If it wasn't good, if it wasn't a great place to work, if we didn't have brilliant people here, if we didn't fulfill our expectations and live them every day, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I agree with that. And how important do you think, how important do you think the people are actually then to the Next brand as well? Not just in terms of, bringing them in, but projecting what next is as well, because that we can do marketing campaigns, communication, all of that, but the people are kind of our biggest advocates in a way, aren't they?
It's all about the people.
Yeah.
They live it, they breathe it, they are it. So they're absolutely fundamental to it. If the people working here aren't aligned with those expectations, with the way we do things, it's going to break down very quickly. But again, coming back to the earlier point, it's because our employer brand is a collection of our observations. It's been built through our people. They're already living it. So we're not, this isn't about changing people's behaviours. No. This is about reflecting the behaviours that are making Next what it is.
Yeah, no, definitely. And is there, and there's things we do as a business coming up as well to try and amplify that, I guess, because you still need to do that to highlight it, to then say to people, look, you might see us as X, but actually there's the rest of the alphabet that we do as well. So, there's something coming up, isn't there, next day that we're trying to implement as well.
Yeah, and that, it's a really important day for us. It's the first time we've done it.
Yeah.
I say it's a really important day because it's a way of us doing some of the things you've just talked about. It's a way of focusing on our employer brand. It's a way of magnifying the employer brand, and it's a way of getting people on board and celebrating everything about Next and the people within Next. We're not going to do it on day one. The first one's coming up on the 12th of February.
Yeah.
And it's something that I believe will grow over time. People will begin to understand what it's all about further down the line than on day one. But it really is a chance to look at ourselves and celebrate everything that we're all about, and particularly the people within Next. So I'm looking at it as a great opportunity to help to build the understanding and the commitment to and build the employer brand that we have.
Yeah, I agree. And it's almost like, not that we going back to the earlier comment, it's not like you have a 5-year plan to be like, oh, it's definitely going to be this.
Yeah.
Because we don't know, do we? It could, what we think it might be from this very first one to 5 years will be so different.
It's like everything in Next.
Yeah.
It's not, if we set out the pathway now as to where we want to finish in 3 years' time or in 5 years' time, that would be a mistake, because we have no idea what's going to happen to that road between now and then. And what is going to really resonate with people? What about Next Day is going to really make people intrigued, really enthuse them, really motivate them? We've got to try those things and find out what works. And that, I think, will help us to define each year how we build on that and where we go to. But no, Next is never about determining what the long-term plan is and making sure we get there, because that would be a mistake. Things change too much for that.
Yeah, definitely. And what's kind of, just on a personal level, kind of what's kind of kept you here? Because you've said about, people being here for so long. What's kept you here for so long, do you think?
It's more of what we've talked about. I often say to people, particularly younger people, who, when pretty much everyone's younger than me nowadays, so there's a lot of people in this basket. And people in the early stages of their career are thinking about how to progress and how to get on and what they should do. Again, it's about the long-term plan. Is what I say to them is, for many years in Next, if I had tried to predict what my role was going to be like 3 years down the line, I would always have been wrong.
Right, okay.
Always, particularly in the first 20 years probably of working within Next. If you're looking ahead, things are changing so much, and what you do changes so much, the opportunities for you change so much, that I would never have predicted exactly what my role consisted of 3 years down the line at any point.
Oh, really?
In that part of my career.
Okay,
and
interesting.
So Yeah, one of the things people, I think, in terms of career progression, they get to a place where it's starting to feel a bit dull, a bit, slightly in a rut. And that's when people make a decision to seek something else. I never did that because I didn't need to, because I never had a chance to get into that rut because it was constantly changing. So, and it still is. Yeah, it is still changing, and the role changes as the business changes, and I think that goes for every single role in the company.
I totally agree as well, and that's whether you've just started on day one or week one or whatever, or whether you have been here 14 years, 30 years.
You never get to that place of sort of relaxed comfort, knowing that you're in a daily, weekly, monthly cycle where the same things are going to happen over and over again. It just doesn't happen here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And in terms of, you mentioned something earlier of around the culture and the employer brand and the expectations. How important do you think it is that does the brand impact the culture and vice versa, I guess?
That's really hard to say.
Okay.
It's a dynamic equilibrium. So
yeah.
Going back to my chemistry roots, is the brand impacting the culture, or is the culture impacting the brand? I think the flow goes in both directions.
Yeah.
We're a mature company now, coming up to 42 years.
Mm-hmm.
That equilibrium has found its place, and it is a combination of both things. I think ultimately, the brand must be impacted by the people that work here, and particularly because so many people have been here such a long time, that they really have defined that. But not just in the way that what our products look like, feel like, what they are, what's significant about them, but in the way we operate as well, the way we operate, the way we communicate with each other, the way we communicate with our customers, all of that is defined by the people interactions that we have, but it becomes part of the consumer-facing brand as well.
Yeah.
It's. Hopefully, I've made that point clearly.
Yeah, it's both ways.
It's in both directions.
It's both directions. And do you think, for you in particular, being head of the HR director, do you think that people element is just that's where your focus always is? Obviously, you're interested in the product, and by all means, because that impacts sales, and obviously then that will then impact what we can further do as a business. But I guess your focus is always, and your team's focus is always around the people, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Yeah. And it's making sure that the way we operate from a people perspective is respects our expectations, is aligned with our brand. We are pragmatic when it comes to people. There's no point hiding away from that. We are we're a very business-driven organisation, but that doesn't mean you can't have the consideration for the people aspect alongside that, because a successful business will need to have people that are cared for, are nurtured, are motivated. You can't have one without the other. But it is really important to always keep that front of mind and make sure that we're delivering that. Yeah,
because I guess it's quite easy. Like, I agree. We don't, at Next, it's not like we always go down the business route, but I guess it could be quite easy to just be like profit.
Yeah.
Or go people. Again, I guess it's a balance again, isn't it?
It is a balance, and it's a really hard balance to strike. When you're working within the company. And any company that has sort of makes a big play of its people sort of bias, people are the most important thing that we have, or our people are our priority, or you're going to get clashes there, because the business imperative will always clash with the people imperative. I think what you have to do is to get the balance right, where you're fair and reasonable with people, and you're accommodating where you can possibly be accommodating as well. But you can't give everybody everything they want all of the time, which is something I learned a long time. Often phrases, you can't please all of the people all of the time. But I think you try to please as many people as you can most of the time is probably where you need to aim for.
What was that? What was that lesson? Was that a while ago?
Whenever you are, this goes back to. It's a sort of trite example. As a previous incarnation, when I worked for McDonald's, I used to help organise the annual conference that they'd have each year, where you pull everyone in the company together. Yeah. And when you're trying to organise a conference for, as we do here, for 500, 700 people, and you're just trying to pick a menu.
Just a simple menu, yeah.
Just a simple menu.
Yeah.
And this is why everything turns out really bland in these big menus. Because if you try to go off piece or you try to do something exciting, you just disappoint so many people. It just, whenever you're dealing with large groups of people, you cannot make a decision that pleases every person all of the time. It is utterly impossible to do so. And you just have to accept that you do the very best you can for most people.
No, I would agree. I would agree with that, because it's such there's so many, people have got so many different preferences, so many different, there's so many things to consider now, I guess, as an employer as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's, I guess it's changed a lot since, through the years you've been here as well. I bet you've seen, from when it was, in 95, did you say?
Yeah.
To now. Do you see a big difference between kind of how we not only recruit but retain people and stuff as well, and the things we provide for them? Or
I think again, I've been exposed to differences because I've worked with different populations.
Yeah.
So going back to obviously my early career, within the vast majority of my career in Next was retail focused, and now I've been exposed to the challenges that other business areas have, and they are different. And recruiting someone in the warehouse environment is different to recruiting someone in a store, is different to recruiting someone in finance, in products, in tech, obviously. But fundamentally, I don't think the fundamentals that are inside people about what they want to do and where they want to work change.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think that stays constant. That it's different for those different parts of the business. We have loads of people who work in retail who come into it because they are really enthused by the consumer brand.
Yeah.
And they recognise that, they see that, they want to be part of that. And going back to what we were saying earlier, the representation of the brand in store is really, really important there, and is that there's a huge alignment between the employer brand and the consumer brand in that environment.
Massively.
The two really come together, and that pulls people in at that level to work in stores. Drivers in warehouse are very different. A lot of people working in warehouse are really important to the income of the family.
Yeah.
They need to earn money. They need a place that's secure, that's stable, where they're confident they're going to get a fair return on the effort that they put in.
Yeah.
They're looking for something quite different to a lot of the retail staff. We've got a lot of part-time workers working in retail. Head office, again, totally different. But I think for those individuals, people often say that people are looking for different things in the workplace. I think other things over the years have become more important to people. Everyone talks about Generation Z and their desires, they want to work for sustainable organisations, and people will have a social conscience, and I think that is now manifests itself more clearly within people.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's ever been the case that people want to work for an organisation that they can't be proud of.
Yeah. Who wants to go and work for a company that's basically employing people in factories on
somewhere
pittance,
overseas, and employing, in the worst case examples, employing children in terrible conditions, and no one wants to be associated with that. It's just more overt nowadays, I think, that people probably wear that more clearly on their sleeve as an ambition for themselves. But I don't think that's changed dramatically over the years. It's the manifestation of it that's changed.
Yeah, I guess it's just clearly defining, because I guess one of the things that always pops into my head more is well-being's become such an important thing of the way we focus on people.
Yeah.
But it's not like we've ever gone, we don't care about people at Next either.
No, absolutely not.
No.
And we're really proud of our well-being offer. We've made massive strides in the past 6 or 7 years with the well-being provision that we have. It's still not perfect. People will watch this and say, "What?"
I got a minute.
I don't necessarily agree with that. And I'm open to them letting me know their experiences, because we need to constantly improve. But we have made enormous progress, and there's a lot in place now that never used to be in place. And actually, thinking about what I said previously, I think if there has been a real one area of employment that has changed significantly over my time within Next, it is the approach to well-being.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
I think that's a fair point.
In all aspects.
In all
because I think sometimes people think well-being and maybe go straight to like one particular topic, like mental health or something. It's so much more. Yeah.
There's been a general societal change.
Yeah.
In the approach to well-being, and it was genuinely the case that in May 1995. People wouldn't talk about their mental health. They wouldn't engage in discussing things about their well-being. People internalised it. They kept it to themselves, and they tried to struggle through, which obviously is not healthy for people and is not a great way to operate. It's positive that people are more open about it, can talk about it more. I suppose. So talking myself out of it, change. It's always been there as a requirement for people, but people are much more open about it now, and much more switched on to the wellbeing provision in the workplace and everybody and everywhere else in people's lives. It's a much more important factor. But I think that one has changed significantly over time.
Yeah, definitely. I guess because again, like if you're gonna have the best version of someone, they're going to give you the best possible work as well. Like
Absolutely.
Ultimately.
You've got to, in so many ways, people have to be able to be their best self in the workplace to do their best work. And whether that's a representation of them and the communities that they've come from, or whether that's their state of well-being, you've got to be in the best place to do that. And every single one of us at some point has a time in our lives when we take a bit of a dip.
Yep.
And we all know that manifests itself in what you do in the workplace. So it's really important to the people, to their ability to do their job as well as they possibly can, that their well-being is looked after.
Totally agree. And just one last question then, Lionel. If you were going to say to anyone, say if they're either looking to progress at Next, just started, or they're seeing this for the first time, hopefully they are, and they're going, didn't realise Next, was actually this, wide and vast. What sort of advice would you give anyone?
I think I'd say openness is probably absolutely critical, because the more open you are, the more available the opportunities will be to you, the more options you will have to find your career path through Next that works for you and works for Next, gets you to the very best place you can possibly be. Because hopefully I've got this across in some way. Next is a huge open opportunity for people, but you've got to put yourself on the path and take those opportunities when they come along and experiment. What's the worst thing that can happen if it doesn't quite work out? I know many examples of people who've tried something, didn't quite work for them, went back to their other job, maybe found something else further down the line, and then thrived from that point. So don't be worried to experiment as well. So you've got to be open to the opportunities. You've got to be open to try it, and you've got to be open to the fact that you can comfortably say, that wasn't quite for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and try something else. And I feel we're really accommodating in that as an organisation, because we really believe in the people that have been here, and we want to keep them in that next relationship, because one of the most powerful things we have is everybody, with the people that we have here, with the tenure that we have, so much knowledge about Next and what we do within the company. And keeping that here is really powerful for us. And it doesn't matter what your job is. That next knowledge is almost the overriding factor.
No, because I think the thing I've always got from it all is someone could have one very small idea, and if we all have a lot of small ideas, it's all going to, push the brand forward. I think sometimes people might look at Next and think, we had that great idea to launch the directory those years ago. It was probably just loads of little ideas that got to it, or, TEP, how did you get to that? Again, loads of little ideas. So I think, and I always feel like you are encouraged, well, what's that idea? What should we do? Have you got anything else? Yeah. And push the status quo, really, to kind of, take those mini risks. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're really good at taking mini risks.
We are.
And taking controlled risks. We'll try something new. We'll try it small. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Move on to the next idea. Or it starts to work. And you take that mini idea and people attach arms and legs to it, and it really grows,
and then it goes.
It really takes off. And it's interesting, you said there, TEP. Obviously, TEP is a further development of where we were 2 or 3 years ago with TP.
Yeah.
And I think even before it became defined as TP, it was like, we've got these brilliant services that we've got that other people could benefit from. How can we build on that? So it's very incremental, the way Next develops, and TEP. And I think we've probably got versions of TEP in the pipeline as well.
Wow.
Coming along. So
more acronyms.
We do quite like acronyms.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great chatting, Lionel. Thanks for coming on and talking through about the people of Next and what they bring to the brand. So yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to discuss it, Matt. It's really good to sort of take time out to focus on these things and consider what Next is all about. So I do find it really helpful. Thank you.
No worries.